All right, today is April 16th. Today we have a very special guest, my good friend Phil Kim. Phil Kim is an advisor associate at KPMG. Phil, could you introduce yourself to the audience?
I graduated college back in 2016. Started working at KPMG under the advisory services around August of 2016 and have been since. Advisory is a very broad term, and I'm sure we're going to get into that a little further down the line. You sort of an employee and happy to get started with the interview.
Yeah, so advisory is kind of a broad term, like you mentioned. So I'm sure that advisory is sort of a large umbrella that, can encompass a lot of things. So how it works at KPMG within advisory consulting, is it that people just coming out of college or graduate school are placed into a specific function within advisory and maybe they specialize in that? Is that how it works?
Yeah, you're right. In terms of advisory, since the practice is so broad, they separate it out into the four main practices: risk management, deal, and strategy. I'm in the risk part of the advisory, but it's genuinely meant to add value to your client through the relationship you hold with them. But again, as you correctly mentioned there, that the way this is manifested in terms of concept and practice varies tremendously across the board. Not only within the branch itself, but across all sort of the four that I mentioned earlier.
If people tuning in are interested in advisory consulting, they would probably be at a little loss as to what particular function or vertical that they would want to be entering. Could you talk a little bit about your particular function within the group?
Sure. Again, my practice feeds back into the risk consulting aspect of it, and my official title is actually contract compliance. So this is a sort of blurb that I shared with prior, but conceptually, I kind of work with clients to ensure the integrity of their contractual agreements are maintained at an objective level, right? Since contracts themselves aren't really self-enforcing, there's risk to be had in terms of the value they can yield and revenue and bottom line and things of that nature. So what we do as work for our client is to kind of go into that contractual agreement and then make sure everything's kept on either side of the fence to make sure that, the objectivity of that contract and contractual agreement is being met on sort of a day-to-day basis, really.
Phil, there's a lot of contracts that I try to honor, and some are really hard to honor, I suppose. What kind of contracts are we talking about in the corporate level?
Sure. So since our clients are mostly within the tech industry, this is going to be for enterprise agreements regarding software license usage or some kind of functionality that is offered by my client to their customer base, right? So, in terms of a contract fee drop, it could be something as simple as the end user license agreement, the typical EULA that you sign off on whenever you download the software.
Right.
Or it could be something as big as enterprise license agreements, which bundles up these, license usage for corporate use. And those deals can get pretty monstrous in terms of the value and what's contained within it. So facilitating things like that, as well as channel analysis and calculating royalties to some of the bigger customers that the client has and things of that nature.
Phil, so what you're telling me is that companies don't torrent their software?
Yeah, you'd be surprised, right? I mean, such illegal but convenient practices not being utilized by big companies. I was surprised too.
No, it's really good to hear that companies are honoring software contracts.
See, the funny thing is they often don't, and that's where we make our money. We go in and strike down, and the revenue we yield are often in terms of repercussions or future deals that are made. But we often find that they're not all too honest with how they're going about. So it gives us a lot of work to do, really.
I'm sorry, I couldn't stop laughing there. That's hilarious. Phil, I actually went to university with you, and I'm sure you're familiar with that. There's actually not that many people out in the world that are particularly interested in advisor associate, primarily because they're not really aware of it. I'm actually not sure if you were aware of it coming into college and attending university. Were there any particular episodes, possibly cathartic moments that motivated you to kind of learn more about advisory consulting and enter the field?
Wow, I think cathartic's a very strong word, but yeah, in terms of how I started college, it was a completely different route, right? And after the first year is when I had my major change. And in terms of career spectrum, I hadn't really given it too much thought until, starting junior year, I suppose. But uh, conceptually, that the word consulting really is exciting to a lot of young people, I think, because it makes it sound like you're going to be solving problems on a day-to-day basis, and the sort of dynamic workplace that you're going to be put into with other, hopefully intelligent and supportive people was something that drove me to looking into advisory and sort of consulting practices in general. Uh, and in terms of how I ended up with this, I think I was more concerned about where I was going to be and the things I was going to do for what kind of company. And I was lucky enough to find this position at the tail end of my 4 years at college. And you know, lucky to get the job, and here I am, I suppose.
Nice, Phil. I wanted to touch up on a topic that a lot of my audience members are having trouble with, which is conceptually certain jobs might sound appealing. You mentioned consulting as an idea sounds really appealing, problem solving,
Mm.
all that good stuff.
Yeah,
But there's actually this kind of difficulty with gauging appropriately with conviction which occupation to pursue, primarily because, there's this saying that if you don't actually try something, you'll never know if it's right for you. It's kind of also often difficult to get field experience at a job in consulting,
yeah.
unless it's your penultimate year at university and you're doing an internship. So I wanted to ask you, what's your thinking process for how to obtain sort of a good feeling for whether or not something is right for you without actually attending a formal training program, such as an internship, or maybe you did like an externship that lasted for like a week.
Gosh, I think that's a tough one because even in terms of the internships I did, none of them were directly correlated to what I'm doing now. But if I could touch upon your earlier point there, I think you're right that the way that the term consulting is packaged and advisory and things like that, you'd expect to be working in a very sort of a dynamic environment and things of that sort. And while that holds true, um, given the sort of corporate systems laid in place to facilitate that procedure, you're going to see yourself working on a sort of a regular spectrum of things you kind of typically come across. And to be fair, I think I struggled with that a little bit, and then finding that this is so regulated, this is so streamlined already, and this isn't something I had in mind. But getting back to that point to finding experiences. Huh. I think the best thing to do would be to talk to somebody who'd be willing to talk honestly, and DH, I think sites like this are a very good way for them to procure such information. Um, but having said that, internships are always ideal, right? But it's hard to come across, and you really got to commit yourself to finding those positions. So with that said, I think unless you get your feet wet completely, you're gonna have to talk to somebody about this. And if you're still in college, professors are a good way to go, or alumni network will be very happy to still assist you, and just people within that practice that you know of that would help you kind of get into contact with a couple other people would be, I think, what I would suggest the most, really.
And Phil, maybe you'll also touch on a point that maybe some people aren't really honest with their job and how
Mm,
they like it because they have to portray sort of a good image of the company. So they're
mm,
not really as honest as they would like to be. So they give, I guess, really glorified descriptions of jobs.
that's true. Yeah, yeah. So in terms of misleading people, hmm, I think that's gonna happen more at stuff like job fairs and career fairs and whatnot. But if you talk to somebody one on one, I think they'd have a little more honest opinion as to how they feel about work. And of course, the interpretation of your experiences is very personal to the person you're talking with, right? So whatever they like, I mean, you're not bound to like everything that they like. So I think when talking to them, it's good to respect that this is something they do for a living, and so you know you take each comment with a bit of a salt because they like it enough to be their career, especially for advisory sake. So I think that would be good thing to keep an eye out for. But yeah, you'll see more of the sort of sugarcoating on job fairs and such.
And what I like about you is you don't sugarcoat things. I think you're being very honest here.
Man, I don't know if you're trying to set up for the later parts of the interview, but we'll see how honest I get.
Thank you, Phil. Do you think there are any easy to obtain part-time jobs or easy to procure internships that kind of align with the functions of an advisory associate? Maybe they can use that as leverage to procure an internship and actually get a full-time offer?
Sure. Unfortunately, I don't think it's as easy as that, only because the amount of training that goes into it are pretty excruciating. And with companies like KPMG, we're essentially selling our time, right? So the company has to budget for newcomers, for their training hours, even if they're an intern or full-time hire. And I think due to the very nature of how the system's set up, you're going to have a very difficult time looking for part-time or a quick sort of one-off externship kind of a thing.
Right.
And yeah, because the company's committing to your success by investing its hours and its resources to make sure you succeed. And that's going to be hard to do when your commitment's just at a part-time or a very short-term level.
When I mentioned part-time jobs, I was thinking, maybe being a newspaper boy, maybe that kind of service mentality is what could contribute you to being a good fit for being an advisory associate, like,
Oh,
things like those jobs.
sure. I mean, I think any sort of employment really is going to help you gear towards this. But mm,
Maybe that was a
well,
stretch.
yeah. I mean, the paper thing, that would help you to be, I guess, part of the janitorial staff here. But in terms of direct correlation, I'm not sure. I guess though I would say that the corporate structure and how it's maintained is something that I had to get myself used to. So
Right.
any sort of exposure to that kind of an environment, whether it be at a part-time level, that would definitely be something I suggest.
Now we're going to go into a little bit deeper. So,
Okay.
going beyond traditional job description and HR speak, can you talk a little bit about your work-life balance, maybe like a rundown of your day-to-day schedule?
Yeah, I'm happy to. So I guess day to day, if you want to get as specific as hours and when I get up and things of that nature, I'd be happy to do that. But I think that one of the most difficult things about the work-life balance um, is that despite it saying you're supposed to work 8 hours a day, given the company and the expectations there, that's seldom the case. As in, you're definitely going to have days where you work more. I've clocked, over 50, 55 hours a week, and those can be really exhausting. And it's not so much that they force you to work those hours. They just have a set expectation. And at first, you're still coming to terms with how you handle the process, right? So things that take less for other people are going to take more for you. And expectation managing, I think, plays a key role in the work-life balance. But getting back to that main answer, I think it gets pretty tiring. This is the first full-time employment I've ever had in my life. And so that kind of stress and the things that come with it often kind of trickle beyond just the Monday through Friday spectrum. And I find myself thinking about this during the weekend. And that could be exhausting. And despite not having anything to do once you come back, from the office to home, you're not going to have exams to study for or homework to get accomplished and things of that. But even with that, I think the stress is something I'm still trying to cope with. So I guess I think I'll have a better understanding of what the work-life balance is like maybe a couple additional months into my career. But right now, I think I'm open to the fact that it's going to be a little stressful for the start of it, and I'm kind of accepting it. But yeah, there have been weeks where it's been particularly difficult, but you just kind of tough through it.
Is there a particular part of the job that makes it difficult? It's like a particular function. Maybe you have to go on site to the client and get slapped a couple times if you make a mistake, something like that.
Yeah, so I don't know about physical punishment. I've
Right.
been lucky enough to avoid any slapping of faces or anything of that sort. But you're right. Making mistakes is very costly, especially if you're dealing with legal documents or things of that nature. Or given that you deal with so many people at the same time, if you send the email to the wrong Paul, for instance, that's a whole can of worms that you got to shut down and amend and things of that nature. So you're right. Mistakes, they are costly. They weigh on you, and I would definitely say they are one of the key sort of sources of stress, not only in avoiding them but amending them after I've committed them.
What would be a second most stressful kind of um, part of the job?
Deadlines you gotta meet, right?
Deadlines.
Yeah, they want to be timely with things, so they set pretty strict expectations regarding that, and dealing with it. I guess I'm still at the point of my career where everything I'm taking I'm being grateful about the work I've been given, right? Because there are people in the consulting area that start off and don't have as much to do, and
Right.
I've been lucky enough to avoid that. But at the same time, it gets almost deadly to have to deal with so many tasks within such little span of time. Um, so yeah, deadlines are another key aspect.
I was curious, how do you enforce a software licensing agreement? Like, is there any way that a company can? I'm not promoting this at all, but how would there be forensics going into it to see that companies are meeting their software licensing agreements? What if companies are sort of evading consultants to hide their practice? How does that work?
Well, the end user license agreement that they sign when starting to install the
Okay,
software is something that, yeah, my client leverages. So my client, or the client's gonna start this process, and then we pick it up from then on, right? I don't know if I can deal too much into the procedure itself, because I think that is kind of confidential in a way. But yeah. So the process itself is instigated by the client, and then we pick it up in the middle,
right.
do every work for them, and then provide to the client on a silver platter or finding the next steps kind of thing.
Nice, nice. Phil, could you talk a little bit about your peers? I know you personally, but I'm curious as to what kind of people that the firm and the function itself attracts.
You're right. So in terms of new hires, you're going to see mostly college students, right? And they all go to pretty respectable 4-year institutions. I mean, I'm not gonna shamelessly plug mine, but
Is it unavailable
uh,
to 2-year students or possibly other institutions? Is it only restricted to 4-year or above?
I think that's something that you're gonna have to work out with your recruiter or your point of contact. When they came to our university for that job fair, I think it was under that sense of, assumed kind of premises that we are gonna have the degree by the time we graduate. In terms of 2-year students, I can't really say too much on that. But yeah, no, peers, you see people from all sorts of walks of life, which I think is great. I think especially given the area that I work in the Bay Area, you meet all sorts of different people, right? And the team I've been working with has been very excellent. Very like multilingual teammates, all sorts of experiences. Uh, they went to university in all different places, and they're very supportive, very intelligent, and it's been a pleasure to work with them.
And Phil, I wanted to ask you, there's always that one team member, maybe it's not a team member, maybe it's someone that you've seen work at the firm. There's always that one person that doesn't really quite do their job well, and you can kind of see it, and maybe the firm is ready to let them go. If you've seen them, what kind of traits do they have that make them incompatible for the job?
Wow. Without speaking too specific, I think they're the people that and this may sound harsh, but they may be the employees that think they're too good for the job they're doing, which
Right.
I think is never ever should be the case, especially if you're starting off. So I've seen some conversations where people who started with me, so first year associates, would be thinking, I don't want to be doing this. My time's too valuable for something like this. If somebody's assigning you from top up, I think it's a good indication that, one, it's important. Two, they think you should be the one doing it. And three, it's not a waste of your time. So really, I mean, I've been blessed to have worked with peers that are very supportive and respectful. So when they ask me to do something, that's never my first go-to question. But I think the uh, biggest sort of obstacle that particular person, this hypothetical person, has to face is thinking that they're too good for some of these jobs, which I don't think should be the case.
Now, at our podcast, we do a question of the day. Who is that person, Phil? Let us know.
Wow.
The name. Social
You know,
security number included.
gosh, I don't know if I can do that.
I'm kidding. What are some aspects of the job that make you think, wow, boy, did I do a good job picking this field?
Hmm. I think that's a funny one. So, in short answer, I'd say international opportunities or just the amount of opportunities, right? So when I was interviewing for this job, the interviewer was telling me about this peer of his who started work and at the same office as and is now currently working in London doing the same thing. I just I find it so amazing that you have such global opportunities that you could take advantage of if you have the willingness and the expertise to do so. And that was very eye opening for me. I really kind of find that exciting. Um, and second of all, this may just be me and my shallow sense of accomplishment, but a name like KPMG is really something that's pretty well known across, right? So I think that makes it seem like an achievement in some sort of a way. And uh, again, I think the people I work with is a really good one. Again, they're very supportive, very intelligent, and if I need help, they're the ones I turn to, and they 99.99% have an answer to that. So,
And I think you could learn from them too. I mean, the role
oh,
is
definitely.
sort of cross-functional too in a way, right?
Yeah, I mean, I've had more exposure with my immediate team,
Right.
but you're right. All sorts of people you run across, you're going to be learning a lot of different things, and yeah, very exciting and very interesting people to work with.
Did you study anything particular in middle school, high school, university, maybe outside university that kind of benefited you or inspired you to get the job?
That answer is no. So in high school, I didn't do any specialized sort of a course or anything. And in college, I majored in econ and in poli sci, which are very, very broad sort of majors to pursue, especially if you don't know what you want to do. And I found that it doesn't so much boil down to what you majored as long as you have the willingness to learn and they find you intelligent. And working with the people I have, they majored in all sorts of things. So mathematics, again, some like international relations, philosophy, what else is there? I mean, comp sci or engineering. The spectrum's really broad is what I'm trying to say. So, um, if you like what you're studying, I suggest you finish it, and the opportunity should come to you if you have the willingness to look for it and can package yourself as being ready for the job.
So I suppose the educational requirements for getting the job is, I guess, medium because you can sort of major in anything if you're skilled, if you prove that you're intelligent, you can fit into a corporate environment, then you can procure the job. But it might be a little bit strict in the sense that um, typically people coming out of university are coming from four-year universities,
Hmm.
and I suppose they're reputable universities, you would say.
I think so, yeah, for the most part.
Gotcha. And I think actually networking is really important because I know certain people that might not be coming from brand name schools are incredibly skilled, are incredibly bright, motivated, optimistic, and have the right recruiting channels and attitude
Hmm.
to tap into maybe regional networks.
Right. I think you're exactly right. So networking is very important. I unfortunately am just garbage at networking. So that was something that I couldn't really utilize to its fullest potential. Um, Having said that, the offices, because a company like KPMG is going to have office literally across the country, across the world, I think locale is a big point. So if you go to university around that sort of office location, you're more likely to get in touch with people on a face-to-face level. If not, just kind of get in contact with the alumni that work within the area and things of that sort, right? Having said that, I think I was lucky enough to have gone to school in the middle of nowhere, but come out to the Bay Area with all these exciting new opportunities. But yeah, you're right. Take advantage of your networks, whether it be alumni or recruiters or whatever. Make them your friends. Make yourself their friend, and try and see what kind of relationship you can develop and how that can enhance your recruiting experience.
And I suppose LinkedIn is also a nice channel to use.
Yeah, again, this is embarrassing, but I don't utilize LinkedIn, and especially in the Bay Area, if I tell people that they do a double take and almost look at me like I'm some kind of caveman. Um, but yeah, those kind of media sites are going to be really helpful and get in touch with the people you need.
And Phil's actually not a typical example of someone
You're
that
right.
went
Please,
through a
yeah,
structured pipeline,
don't do what I did, please. I
because I'm sure you guys can do better for the people tuning in. Phil was one of those just naturally brilliant people that sort of got the job because he was so
I
brilliant.
don't think that was the way I was leaning towards. I think it's just I have difficult time meeting people, right? And that's entirely on me. So things like LinkedIn where you reach out yourself with messages or just connection requests or something like that. I have a very, very difficult time doing something like that. So your ideas, I'm not conventional, especially in this day and age, and especially for the type of work I do. And I could not highlight more the fact that these are going to really help you down the line. And I was stupid and incompetent to have not taken advantage of them.
So Phil is really humble right now. Um,
I,
so Phil, so maybe I'll summarize and then you can kind of correct me. So to the people tuning in, I suppose the formal way to break into it is no. First of all, before doing anything, interview a person that's actually working in the job function that you're interested in. I would recommend that first. Maybe tuning into this interview if you're interested in advisory associate positions within management consulting firms, tech consulting firms, and then graduate with a 4-year degree. I'm not too sure if KPMG hires 2-year degree graduates, but traditionally 4-year degrees. Network really hard, tap into your network, reach out through LinkedIn, other
mm,
channels that have plenty of recruiters. And I can't emphasize this enough. Regional networks are really important because certain offices are very local to certain universities. So they really tap into that area. I have a friend who went to Kansas University, and they have an office in Kansas, and most of their hires are from the University of Kansas and
hmm.
Kansas State. So check those channels. How did I do? Does that sound like a formal pipeline to you, Phil?
Yeah, I think so. As you said, I think, and I feel so condescending saying this, but I think your recruiting experience is going to vary greatly depending on the institution that you're enrolled in, right? So, regional locale, as you said, is going to be very important. Um, Reaching out to the right people is going to be important, and just knowing that there's going to be tens of maybe tens and over 100 people applying for the same sort of
Right.
position. So you really got to put yourself down as a able candidate, and ways of doing that are different, but try and take advantage of all sorts of ways that you can imagine.
Because quite frankly, there's some big name colleges out there, and most of these universities are sort of feeder universities that send batches of students to certain firms, and this could be the case. So, but don't be discouraged. Um,
Exactly. Yep.
like, don't be, because you have nothing to be afraid of. Some of these people are very, I guess you would say, how would you describe those people that they feel they're too good for applying and writing a cover letter
Um, at
sometimes?
that point in life, and I'm speaking directly to recent college graduates who are looking for jobs. At that point in life, nothing's too good, right? Just
Right.
get to work on your resume, cover letter, networking, etc. Because opportunities are gonna skip you by unless you try and hold something, and time really flies when you're trying to manage recruitment and employment. So,
And time is really flying. So Phil's time is actually really valuable, and I'm afraid I have to pay you. How much did you say your billable hours were, Phil?
I think the calculations will be done by my corporate lawyer after this, but
Right, right.
I'll send you the invoice.
I'm actually really scared, guys. So, Phil, we can't thank you enough for joining us today. I'll definitely get the invoice from your lawyer tomorrow. So some of the audience tuning in right now will, I hope, identify their passion with your occupation, Phil, and pursue that as a goal. I'm sure there's going to be some comments below saying, "Hey, Phil, I tuned into your interview and I was inspired. I interviewed, and hopefully there's,
Inspired, yeah.
hopefully there's an interview in line." And
Yeah.
that's what we live for, right? That good news, feedback.
Um, yeah. No, I'd be happy to answer any of those inspired comments,
Right.
or if you have any questions, of course. feel free to defer them to me, and I'll do the best I can in addressing them.
One final message to those people wanting to become advisory associate at KPMG. What would that be, Phil? And we'll conclude with this message.
Um, Give it a shot, and know that you're gonna be worked hard, but down the road you're gonna appreciate the work you did in starting off your career, because the opportunities that come at the end of it are gonna be endless.
Man, that was beautiful. Thank you, Phil. Talk to you soon.
All right, thank you.